Hello and welcome to this video A11 in the series of autodidactic learning objects in GeoGebra. The A series is about various techniques and the A11 video is about sliders. My name is Jonas Hall and I'm also known as the Mad Mathematician. So sliders. You've all used sliders, right? You click on the slider button and click where you want it, and basically you accept what it is, and then you can use this as a control to change the number A very easily. Let's hide the rest for a moment. So I can drag that. I can also, whilst it's selected, I can use the arrow buttons and move it, and each time I use the arrow button it will move one step with a step size defined. If I use shift left arrow it will decrease by 1/10 of the step. If I use control left arrow it will decrease or increase by 10 times the step, and indeed if I use alt and an arrow it will change by 100 times the step. So if I right click on a number, go into properties, there's a slider tab where the minimum, the maximum and the step values are defined. There's also an animation speed, so I can actually animate this. Right click and select animation on and it will animate. Any object that depends on that value, let's say we have a circle defined by center and radius, and we select the radius A, then this is what happens. Obviously it can't take negative values, so we may want to change this to something which has 0 as the minimum. You get a pause control at the bottom there, which is always useful. So select the minimum, set that to 0, and we may want to have that as 0.01 and the speed 10, just to see if there's any change. And let's start the animation again, and that runs smoother, doesn't it? Okay, so this is an ordinary slider. Now you probably know that you can create integer sliders by selecting integer in this dialog. What it does is simply it selects the minimum to 1, maximum to 30 and the step size to 1. That's all there is. You could have done that by yourself. But an integer slider can have very different uses from an ordinary slider, simply because it takes integer values. I'm going to remove some of these objects now, in fact all of them, and I'm going to show auxiliary objects, and I'm going to show graphics area 2, and you'll notice that this is actually the instruction template or the comments template where you can comment or give instructions. And this has a number here called inum, short for instruction number. And if we have a look at that, it's set to go from 1 to 4 with a step of 1, so it's an integer slider. This particular number is controlled by buttons. These buttons, if I right click that and go into properties, check the script and select the on click script, it says that yeah, it will take the variable inum and increase it by 1 every time I click it. So you can control a slider with a button. You may have noticed that the nice looking button, and it's actually in the style tab. You can select images, and there are a couple of play controls and arrows that are selectable there. So you may guess that this one reduces the number as that one increases the number, this one reduces the number, and this one will simply set it to 1, like that. And the way this is used is that we have a number of texts, text 1 to 4, with various instructions that aren't visible. We then have a list which is defined as simply a list of these texts, and then we have a variable called instruction show now that is defined as the element of the list of texts that has the number instruction number. So whenever instruction number is changed, I will pick out a different element of the list of texts. In other words, I'll pick out a new text to show. So every time I click this button, I'll select a new text to show here, and that is visible, but the original texts aren't. It suffices that this dynamic text is visible. And that was just a little bit about sliders. Thank you very much for listening.